The modest fashion industry has grown into one of the most in-demand sectors and is estimated to rise sharply in just the next year alone, according to the Global Islamic Economy report. But beyond profits, modest style also provides women with the option to not be sexually objectified. Joining me in the studio is Anara Adnan from Neoware. She's the founder and a modest fashion designer. Lovely to meet you, Anara.
Thank you so much for
You are the founder of Neoware, which won the Modest Sustainable Fashion Award in 2022. So you're about modest fashion, but it also has to be sustainable at the same time.
Yeah. So
Tell us about this.
We won an award for Most Sustainable Modest Clothing Brand 2022, and basically one of our main focuses is to bring sustainability and modesty together because me as a founder, I believe that the values of modesty include ethics and sustainability. So that's why I launched a brand like Neoware to make sure that this is taken into account and the modest fashion industry goes towards this direction.
Now, from your own experience, you've said that the modest fashion industry is becoming more mainstream, and you're noticing that a lot more outlets are starting to stock modest fashion wear, from bikinis to hijabs to other modest attire. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so it's actually a very fascinating thing that has been happening in the last few years, but especially like brands like Nike, where they did a big campaign and with their bikinis, and there was like a huge billboard, and then all the brands have started seeing the huge potential of modest fashion. Brands like Pretty Little Thing, for example, in the fast fashion, ASOS, and then also in the UK we see like retailers like Harvey Nichols and others that are really incorporating modest collections and making sure that this segment of the market is also served, because obviously it's a very growing industry, so that's why everyone is.
It is a thriving industry, and your journey, your own personal tale into Neoware and how you started it and why you started it is quite fascinating. You haven't always been into modest fashion yourself. Yes. You are Spanish, and prior to starting Neoware and wearing more modest fashion, you were just like most girls today in the secular kind of world that we live in terms of fashion.
Exactly.
Tell us about this.
So yeah, I grew up in Spain, and obviously my sense of fashion was completely different, had nothing to do with modest fashion. However, the place I'm from, everyone wears quite like classic clothes normally. So when I came to London and I see like all the diversity of cultures and styles and everything, and I became Muslim too. So I decided to start wearing hijab and wearing modest clothing. So that's how I realized that there were many brands doing sustainable modest clothing. Actually, I couldn't find any at all, and that was something for me that was important. So that's how I launched Neoware, and why I decided to pursue this aim to do sustainable modest fashion, so that I can bring ethics into the modest community. And
so your aspiration is to bring ethics into the modest community, which you are already doing. But having been on the other side and into the more secular fashion scene, and now into modest attire, what's your experience been? How is it different for you now? How does it change your experience as a female in Western society when you don modest attire to prior?
Well, I hope I can answer that question properly. There's a lot of dimensions to this question, right? Like, first of all, being visibly Muslim changes the way people perceive you. That can be a positive thing and a negative thing. So you can open doors for you, you can close them. But I feel like personally, since I've started wearing modest clothing, I've personally felt more empowered and more safe. Actually, I've asked many people, like, why do you wear hijab, or how does hijab make you feel? And I'm not talking only about covering your head, but also like wearing more modest clothing. And most of the women have told me that they feel more empowered and they feel safer, because it's not just about how they look, it's also about who they are, right? There's like, and there's more that sense of dignity of like, I'm being more respected.
as a woman myself, I don't wear the hijab, but I do believe in modest fashion, and I do like to keep it modest when I can, as much as I can. I do personally find it to be very empowering, because it makes me focus less on so many of the body issues that many women experience in the West, right? And all the other things like the cellulite and the obsession, the scrutiny, and the constant microscopic perspective on your body kind of diminishes when you don't think you have to flaunt it, right? It's not always about what the Western kind of motto is, if you've got it, flaunt it.
Yeah.
This is kind of saying, if you got it, you don't have to flaunt it. And I think that can be, for me, I find it to be empowering. Yeah. Empowering in a way that is perhaps not the Western definition of what empowering means, but was empowering to me within. And I know it can be quite liberating.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. I feel it's liberating, and it's a new sense of freedom, of absolutely. I personally, for example, when I go on holiday and I wear a burkini, I find it liberating that no one can see my or pick on my body or have an opinion on my body. You can have an opinion on my burkini if you like it or not, on the color of it, but at least like that part of me is protected to those that I love the most, and it's I think it's a very empowering thing. And actually, you'll be surprised, but even non-Muslims have asked me, where did you get your burkini from? Because I want to wear it, because maybe they had cellulite or they were insecure in their body, so they just didn't want to wear a bikini. So it sometimes happens that, it's...
And I think that is often the confusion as well, is that the message of what is empowering to women is sort of being confused, I believe, at the moment. So we think, liberation and freedom and empowerment and for women is to be able to, it's about wearing what you want and showing what you want and being kind of sexualized as an object, which is a very conflicting message to really to the, when we're actually being told at the same time that actually you're being liberated. It's not the case.
It doesn't feel like it. Yeah. Actually, who likes being catcalled, right? It's definitely, I agree with you that for us, our experience as women of what's liberating, it might be very different from what's being pushed as what liberation should be.
Yes. So what is actually liberation in itself, the phrase in itself, when we break it down, what does it really truly mean? And what are we being told, right? It's about questioning that. And I personally feel, as a woman, and having also been on the other side like yourself, having been at a stage in my life many years ago where, being modest, I had to some degree, yes, it wasn't my priority. But yeah, I completely understand. I do feel that it can definitely be an empowering thing, because it takes away that scrutiny and that whole state of mind, for sure.
Plus, if you think about it, in terms of fashion, right?
Yeah.
How timeless fashion, and if you go back 50 years ago or 100 years ago, how everyone was modest. Everyone, even in the West, it was a common thing.
Yes.
And obviously fashion has evolved towards less and less clothing with the movement of feminism and whatnot, but there's also a lot of people who follow the movement of feminism that are going towards, actually, I want to cover, and that empowers me. It's a lot. There's a lot of opinions going around, but actually having from my personal experience, I feel that even if you look at royalty, for example, there is a modest attire, and if you look at women in power, usually let's say congresswomen, or they're usually wearing modest clothing.
Yes.
So that's why I feel like it just gives you that sense of elegance and timelessness, and it's quite empowering.
Yeah, and I think there is that underlying understanding within society generally, as you're just mentioning, in royalty and in government, women do know what dignity is and what being dressing respectfully is. Yeah. But I also personally, my own personal perspective is also that it's it's also good for women, it's also good for men, and it's also good for society at large.
Absolutely.
Because we don't often realise this, but women can be a hugely seductive, attractive force. And we do have a responsibility for, taking responsibility for ourselves and the way we appear, because I think to be in denial of that, denial of the fact that we do possess certain powers as women through our body, through our physique, is to neglect reality.
Absolutely. Also, like, you wouldn't see a man like going somewhere, I don't know, like with his whole shirt open and like,
Yeah.
you know, like that's why men are not so sexualized as women.
Yeah.
So, and you wouldn't see a man like that and think like, oh yeah, he's been liberated.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think many women would, a lot of men will say, well, that's because women don't want to see men looking like that. Well, I'm sure many women would be delighted for men to go out there, with their six packs and all looking chiseled, and would quite like to ogle them, really, But to say that it is very much just women once again, the focus is always on women.
Yeah.
So where are you going forward with Neoware? What's next?
So with Neoware, I'm expanding onto different countries. So our main customer base right now is in the West, so UK, US, Europe, and we're going towards GCC countries, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and yes, that's the next big step. And also our product range is becoming much more diverse, so we're including activewear, burkinis, and a wild range of products.
And you're expanding your product range. Is that because of a demand from clients, or what kind of demands are you getting, or feedback are you getting for this?
I'm getting a lot of feedback. So clients really like that our style is not very Muslim. It's quite diverse. So we have I always see the modest community as a very diverse and not necessarily only Muslim. So we try to be as inclusive as possible. So we have from abayas to dresses that, I try to cater to everyone who wants to wear modest clothing, and also that sustainability aspect. The customers want it, customers value it, they ask for it actually, and they really appreciate it. So they are asking us, can you do all the things, and so yeah, that's why like there's demand. So yeah.
And as you were mentioning, you've mentioned that there is a countercultural movement going on, especially for your younger generation, where you are questioning how should I be, because there is no clear guidance really anymore on the male and the female role. It's all under debate at the moment.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a good time for modest fashion, because a lot of women are questioning, what they're being told about what to wear.
Yeah.
So there might be more of a move towards modest fashion, and also the Islamic religion is it predicted to be growing in the over the next century. So maybe
it's the fastest growing religion in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see, especially with the Gen Z and the younger generations, actually they are going towards that trend of modest clothing or classic look, elegant. There's, especially on TikTok, you see these trends like old money trend or like Sophia Richie. There's a huge, I would say, trend towards covering more or wearing clothes that are more classic and that look more elegant.
And why do you think that is happening?
I personally think that there's a lot of reasons, but on a way, it's like I think we've overdone it. With like we can't uncover anything else. So
what's left? Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian has done it all for us, right? We don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, and there's actually we are tired of the Kardashians. We're tired of that sort of like lifestyle that and
opulence.
Yes.
And just being just pleasures, really, pleasures of the flesh.
Exactly. I think there's a trend towards more spirituality, more towards understanding what makes you feel good about yourself and what makes you feel empowered. And okay, if you wear a beautiful suit or a beautiful dress that covers you, and how empowered you feel. You feel you can take over the world. So right, that's the kind of feeling that I think people are searching. It's more that dignity and that
That's incredible. Your generation is incredible. When I do see the stuff from Gen Z and the millennials, on Instagram, I'm often quite, awestruck almost by, just the profound questioning and thinking for yourselves and trying to find almost the right way forward. It seems to be going in a positive direction, do you think?
Hopefully, yeah. I am an optimist, so I see the world I see my glass half full. So I think that we have grown with this instability in terms of climate, in terms of society. So I feel it's very important for us to search a better way of doing things, because clearly what we've been doing is not working. So that's why also things like sustainability are so important right now. Everyone's talking about it, and even like governments like are really pushing towards sustainability, because we can't continue doing what we've been doing because there's not enough resources. Like, we have only one earth and we have to look after it. Also, as a Muslim perspective, we are stewards on the earth.
Yes.
Earth is a trust, it's an amana. So that's why I feel like sustainability should be part of our daily lives as well.
Anera Adnan, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joining me in the studio is Afroja K from Neo Modest, which is leading the way in disruptive, modest fashion. Afroja, lovely to have you here today on Video Link.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really very excited, to share my story, share my work.
So, modesty and AI, that's a very different combination. It's the first time I've actually ever heard of this. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, definitely. AI is a kind of recent trend, recent innovation, especially in fashion and tech. But actually, AI has been used in e-commerce, in business, and tech long years. So in fashion, I'm the first one to introduce AI, especially in luxury and also in inclusive fashion. I'm the first one to introduce 100% AI design fashion collection. So initially, I started my journey in sustainable and modest fashion. Then I integrated 3D, metaverse, Web3. And then at the final stage, I was working on AI fashion, more innovative fashion, more sustainable fashion. So then I planned to launch 100%.
How does it work? I mean, why do we need AI in modesty? How does it translate for the typical person who is into modest fashion? Is this something they're going to wear when they're in, when they're online or in 3D? How does it work? Can you simplify it?
So yeah, that's a good point, actually. Actually, all of these technologies like metaverse, Web3, 3D, physical fashion, and then AI fashion, all actually help each other to flourish in that space. So AI fashion will help in terms of like inclusion. Say, for example, I'm designing my fashion collection totally on AI tools. So from that perspective, I can plan and I can actually execute my dream, my ideas through AI. Like I can do my research and I can represent the community that I actually want to represent through my designs. So this is very kind of revolutionary. So for example, on Midjourney, I mostly design on Midjourney and stable diffusion. So yeah, they are huge actually.
But why do
I can show.
Why do women in the AI world or in the metaverse, why do they need to be worried about wearing modest fashion? Because what's the need for that?
So it's very simple. Like just our real world. You see, we are talking about inclusion, diversity,
Sorry,
representation.
just to ask quickly, is this for avatars? Will this be for avatars?
No, it's not just for avatar. Just I'm using AI tools to design my collection, and then I can create videos, and I can also create avatars as well, and I can show how modest fashion looks like on real person, on real women, and I can represent the community how they look like. Say for example, African culture, African fashion, Indian subcontinent, they have different style in terms of modesty. Arabic countries, I can show how their fashion look like. So yeah, this is huge actually. I can represent all the cultures.
And how did you get into this?
So basically, I'm from legal background. I'm a lawyer, and right now I'm trying to be a barrister in UK. Anyway, but fashion was actually my passion, and from that context, I wanted to actually work on some specific areas like inclusion, diversity, and another point is I wanted to talk about against actually objectification of women, because fashion has been very prominent industry where objectification is very prevalent. So I wanted to introduce that, and I think AI will help me. It's
And
very easy
why?
to,
So
yeah.
you want to be the almost it's the other voice for women in terms of their attire, which the modest fashion industry does. How do you feel that modest fashion empowers women? In what ways? So on a psychological level, social level?
Yeah, definitely. If you think about the like mental health, the adverse effects of mental health, on, especially on women and girls, you'll see objectification has greater, the worst effects actually impacts. I came through different research articles how objectification on media, on fashion affects our mental health, and how women feel like guilty or maybe inferior because of the representation in media especially. And media wants want women actually to like showcase their body, and this is how they will be bold, that is the way our media actually present women. And there is an idea like concept in fashion industry especially, like sex sells. So they all the brands, most of the brands actually want to show like represent women as sexy, bold, and they they totally ignore that modest fashion can also be bold, powerful, empowering. And if you think about Muslim women, Muslim girls, she can feel bold, she can feel empowered just without showing her body. She can be herself. She doesn't need to
Yeah.
impress the media. She doesn't need to impress others. She doesn't need to be sexy to be, empowered, bold, or qualified. So I think from that context, modest fashion is really very helpful. If you think about social
Yeah.
order,
And
yeah,
sorry, could I
everything.
just ask also, are you finding, I was just speaking to Anara from Neoware, and we were talking about how there is a greater demand now in the West, in retail
Yes.
outlets for modest fashion, and it's a industry that is really thriving and growing. Are you experiencing this pull, this gravitational pull, for and demand for this alternative fashion?
Definitely, I think especially the Gen Z and now the Gen Alpha, uh, the younger version of us. So they are more and more like looking for new trends that is modest. Um, and if you think about the modern Muslim women, Muslim girls, and beyond the religious context, actually more girls, women are trying to test modest fashion. And from that context, I named my brand Neo Modest actually, because now the new generation, even the millennials, they are into modest fashion, but in a different way. They have different taste, and definitely there is a huge demand now. And by 2023, the modest fashion industry will be around 361 billion dollar. So that is huge. That is just the physical version. And since I'm working in the physical, both physical and digital, I think this is going to be huge in terms of NFTs, AI fashion, 3D, and then 3D printing. The next version is 3D printing. I'm already working on this. So interesting, actually.
It's incredible, isn't it? And I think one of the reasons might
Yeah.
be that, the Muslim Islamic inspired modest fashion is really the only other voice and the only other alternative to the secular
Yes.
world and the dictates of the fashion industry, which are telling women that they're being given liberation by
Yeah.
not wearing anything, which is a false message. And the modest fashion scene is
Definitely.
it's the only real alternative that's out there that's questioning that
Yeah.
and denying
Yeah.
that.
Exactly, I totally agree with you. This is really a false message, and it's kind of, I think, you can say brainwashing women,
Yes.
and another form of like exploiting women, because our qualification, our worth is actually our personality, our education, our skills, personal and professional skills, not just our outfits. Definitely, our outfits represent who we are. That's kind of one identity, but it doesn't mean we have to entertain media, we have to entertain people around us by showcasing our body, um, through body language. It doesn't mean that. And just leave the faith, religious context, as a normal human being. If you think about like a social order, like comfort, actually personal comfort, and yeah, I think women feel comfort. Like for example, I feel comfortable in my modest outfits, so nobody is compelling me, nobody is forcing me to wear it. And even I have the right to wear different clothes. I don't wear, so this is my personal choice. So here is the freedom, here is actually my right to wear how I feel comfortable. So this is my right to choose. So yeah.
And you find it, for you personally, you find it empowering, you find it takes
Definitely.
you away from objectifying your own self as being this object of the male gaze, which so many women in the West, Muslim or non-Muslim, are very, very preoccupied by and don't realize how oppressive that can be to themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's actually a myth. I have a book actually coming soon. I'm working on a book. It's on modest fashion. So I'll actually discuss about this, like how there are different myths in our society, especially in Western society. Like how modest fashion is exploiting. They think is always exploiting, is like humiliating for women. But there are different scenes, different contexts actually in different societies. If you think like if we cover our body, that affects us, that controls us and exploit us, that is totally wrong actually. um, Say for example, if you have a look on different events, fashion events, different celebrity events, sometimes you see dress malfunction or outfit malfunctions. So um, uh, a woman actually who wears modest clothing doesn't need to think about those stuffs, because if you wear modest outfits, you can feel good, you can feel totally confident, actually confident, bold. And
Yes.
yeah. So there has been different opinion, there are different opinions, myths. So these are coming actually from the media, especially Western media, who want actually women. And also Islamophobia is another reason. They want to label Islam, Muslims as negative, exploiting, rude, this kind of stuff actually. So I can
Yeah.
understand. And this is where I actually want to work. Hopefully my book will be a good piece. Yeah,
What's the
I'll talk
name of
about
your
this.
book?
um, right now is Modesty and the
It's still in
Myths.
development.
Yeah.
I will look forward to when
Hopefully
it
the
does
name will
come
not
out.
change. Yeah. I'll share.
Brilliant. Well, Afrosia, it's been wonderful speaking to you and hearing your views, and
Thank you.
wish you all the best of luck with Neo Modest. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that's it from Aysha in the Spotlight for this week. Join me very soon for our next innovative episode.